If you've ever thought about how to find a little bit of humor in the really tough, challenging times that you're going through, you're in for a real treat today. I'm Kim Murray, and I'm the host of the Purpose Reimagined Rebuilding Your Life After Loss event. And I'm here with Kelly Lynn, a comedian, a viral TED Talk speaker, a certified grief counselor, and the author of the book, My Husband Is Not a Rainbow, the brutally awful, hilarious truth about life, love, grief, and loss. Since becoming suddenly widowed in July of 2011, Kelly's passion has been to reshape the conversations we have surrounding grief and loss and to help others crawl out of the darkness and find their light. Today, Kelly's going to talk about humor, hope, and heart, meeting widowhood with laughter, light, and love. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you today. I want to just start off with a brief background on your widowhood. If you could just give us a short story about what happened to you back in 2011.
Sure. So my husband, Don, and I were living in New Jersey in our crappy little apartment that we shared. And he was a paramedic, and I was an adjunct professor teaching comedy and acting and all that kind of stuff. And he was perfectly healthy as far as I knew. He was 46 years old. I was 39. And he got up one day and went to work. And 45 minutes later, they found him collapsed on the floor. And he had a massive cardiac arrest at 46. We had no idea that anything was wrong. We had no idea. There was no symptoms whatsoever. I mean, this is a man who never had a headache, and I'm not joking. I mean, I used to joke with him about that. I used to say, "What do you mean you've never had a headache?" And "I've never had a headache. I don't know what it feels like." And all of a sudden he was just gone. And so it rocked my world and changed everything forever, as you know.
As we all know, and you were teaching comedy,
Yeah.
you said at a college,
Yeah, at
okay.
Adelphi University in New York. I
Okay.
taught there for over 16 years. I taught comedy and dramatics and acting courses. I was a theater major for at that college years before, and I taught as a professor for 16 years there afterwards.
So your topics that you wanted to talk to us today about is humor, hope, and heart. So finding laughter in the craziness of everything. And so
Yeah.
I'm wondering, you obviously had a background in comedy, but when you're widowed and suddenly like you were, it's hard to make sense of anything. So I want to know where that transition to the humor came in. Was it immediate because of your background, or was it over time because you were trying to figure out what the hell just happened after your husband collapsed and died suddenly?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a little bit of both is the honest answer. Because of my background as a comedian, I just find humor in most things, and especially dark things,
Mm-hmm.
especially tragic things, especially things that are very, very hard to deal with. My coping mechanism is to go to humor immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what I've always done. And it's also what my husband Don always did. As a paramedic, they go to humor as well because they see so many tragic things every day in their job. So if they're picking up a kid on an ambulance that just died in a car accident and they have to get through the rest of their shift, they often would do that through humor. They would play jokes on each other, pull pranks on each other, that kind of thing to get through that shift. And then
Mm-hmm.
later that day, when he would come home to me, is when he could break down and get emotional. So humor's just been a part of my life and a part of my healing, just kind of organically since I was born, I think. My dad has a great sense of humor. It's just always been a part of things. But yes, there is a time where it's hard to find the funny, and I call it finding the funny inside the pain,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I think it is. It's like, well, how do I look at this situation and find the funny? And it's really just a matter of kind of seeing things in a different way, in a more, I guess, slightly twisted way of looking at things. I'll give you a small example of finding the funny in something horrific, which is that when we were picking out his casket and talking to the funeral directors, they said, there's an option because we were going to have him cremated. They said, there's an option of we can rent the casket. You don't have to buy it. And I bursted out laughing because I pictured Dawn saying, "Oh my God, even in death, I can't afford my own place."
Right. That's funny. Right. Yeah.
And
So you're thinking that. You didn't say that out loud though, but that's what you're thinking, or did you share that?
no, I
Just
did
curious.
say it out
You
loud
did say it
because
out
they all
loud. Okay.
had a crazy sense of humor as well. And so everybody started laughing. It broke the ice. And they were like, "Oh, great. I'm glad we can joke with you." Because that's how they
Hmm.
talked to Dawn, their coworker, every day. That type of
Right.
humor. And so now they knew they could talk to me that way too.
That makes it so death is awkward. We know this. Talking to people about death is awkward. And when you can just kind of level that playing field at the beginning and just,
Yep.
diffuse everything, I think it just makes it so much easier. So some people are receptive to that. But did you have people that weren't receptive to your humor who were just kind of like taken aback by it? Did you get that feeling from some people?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely some people just don't kind of get it, or,
Mm-hmm.
that you have other people in the widowed community who, maybe saw a humorous video that I did online or something that where I was making jokes about the grief and stuff, and that would make comments like, "How can you joke about this? There's nothing funny about this."
Mm-hmm.
And my response is always kind of like, well, it's not funny that he died. That's not the
Right.
funny part. What's funny is everything that happens surrounding a person's death. What's funny is other people's reactions to a person's death and the things they say, the comments they make to you. What's funny is the red tape issues you have to go through as a widowed person, and just all the things, when you get the ashes, and it's not like in the movies and it's in a big cardboard box instead of this beautiful urn. Well, you have to pay for that big beautiful urn, and nobody tells you that. And you throw the
Exactly.
ashes into the ocean and they come back in your face. I mean, things like that. There's a lot of humor.
There's a lot of humor. That happened to us. We took my mom's ashes to the ocean in New Jersey, and it came back on us, and we're like, "Oh my God, it's in the sand now. What do we do?" It's just so funny. We always have these ideas in our head about how things should be, and they rarely go that
Yep.
way. So I think that's
Right.
part of the humor of life in general is just to, laugh off whatever you thought was going to go the way that it didn't go.
Right.
I think that's
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
I think that's awesome. So in dealing with using humor to deal with your loss, was that it's obviously something that you turned to, and it helped you, but did it prevent you from grieving too by just trying to find the humor and everything, or did you find that balance? You were able to have a balance.
I definitely had a balance, and I never felt like it prevented me from grieving. I've always been a really brutally honest person, and so when it came to my grief, I was always from the very beginning brutally honest about how hard it is. I don't know how to do this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I want to live anymore. I mean, just being brutally honest about how it feels and putting it out there, and that includes humor, coming at some of it through a humorous point of view. It's just kind of part of my language to be humorous, I think. So it just comes very naturally. It's not like I went searching for the jokes in it, but they're just there. There's
So
just
for
so
for
much
humor, for
absurdity.
someone that it doesn't come naturally to, who maybe is listening today or wants to know how to find that humor, I mean, what would you say to somebody who doesn't know how to make a joke or how to find the light in the darkness?
Yeah.
It's okay to do that. It's okay to laugh, but we
Yeah.
have a lot of guilty feelings as widows and widowers. But what would you
Well,
recommend
you know
for
what?
somebody?
That's actually my number one piece of advice is let go of that guilt.
Yeah, that's a good
Let
one.
go of the guilt that comes with, oh, if I laugh, I should feel guilty about that. If I laugh, I should feel bad about that. Laughing is healthy. People should
Hmm.
know that. It's healthy. It's good for your heart. It's good for stress. It's good in so many ways physically,
Oh yeah.
emotionally, and it helps you heal. Um, and anybody who loves you, the people that we love who have died, they love us
Hmm.
and loved us and still love us from wherever they are. And I believe anybody who loves you wants you to laugh and wants you to feel joy and wants you to feel those emotions. And I think when you laugh and when you're able to laugh freely, it also allows you to be able to cry freely and to
Mm-hmm.
be able to express the other emotions. It allows everything to come out when you allow yourself the release of laughter. And it's such an amazing feeling to be able to laugh again, because a lot of people think, I'm never going to laugh again. It's just not going to
Absolutely.
happen. And so the first time they laugh again, it's this unbelievable feeling of like, okay, I think maybe I can do this. Maybe I can get through this and I will laugh again. And your laughter might be different. That's what's interesting as well. Your sense of humor might change because of your loss. That's what
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. Before my loss, I had kind of a, I don't know, my jokes as a comedian on stage were about, 1980s music and observations and kind of like Jerry Seinfeld type humor.
Mm-hmm.
Um Nothing too deep. It wasn't hurting anybody. It wasn't too deep. After my loss, I started talking about my loss, and I started talking about that on stage because that's what was in my heart. And so I took that and found the funny inside of it.
I love that. And I think that's an important point. And just to go back to what you said before about being really honest about your loss too. And I think
Yeah.
that's what, and I did the same thing. Like I would always say that I led with being a widow. So whenever I was
Yeah.
introduced to even new people, they'd ask me what I do. Well, I took over running my husband's business after he died, but he ran a chemical sales business. What was I doing in a chemical sales business? I had to tell people. My husband died, and I took over running his business selling chemicals to the metal processing industry. Like that's just not a normal job for me, right? So
Right.
anyway,
That's so random.
it's so random. So people would look at me very strangely, and then I'd say, well, he died. And so this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it was just easier for me to lead with it because it took
Yeah,
the awkwardness
absolutely.
out of the equation. And then I got to control how the conversation was going to go. I don't like being ambushed. I
Yes.
don't like surprises. So by leading with it and being brutally honest about your situation, I think you can garner a little bit more control over some of those conversations that you're having with people. And then let them know
Yeah.
it's okay to talk about the dead guy. Like we can say his name.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about him. And if we don't start that conversation, most other people aren't gonna start it. Some will. But in
I
general, if we
totally
don't
agree with you. Totally agree with you, because it's a shame in a way that we have to be the ones to
Mhm.
start it, right? We're the ones hurting, we're the ones grieving, we're the ones going through the loss, and yet we still have to educate people. But I think that that's the way it is. I think
Mhm.
I did have to tell my family and my friends,
Mhm.
please talk about Dawn, please tell stories to me, please share memories. I want that. And if it makes me sad, okay, it's going to make me sad, but it's also going to remind me that he lived and that you
Mhm.
miss him too. You can't remind me that he died. I know that every second of every day. But
Right.
you
We
can
know
remind
it's
me that he lived, and that's such
yes.
a gift.
That's an excellent point. So we're not going to be any more sad or grieve any harder than we already are just by
Right.
somebody talking about our spouse. So we definitely want to have those conversations, and we have to let
Yeah.
people know that it's okay to do that. So your process is
Yeah.
like, just thinking in terms of like, again, when people are newly widowed, or even in the first few years, you're just so closed in. You're just so overwhelmed and so
Yep.
despondent with grief. I think watching TV shows is a good idea too. I don't know if you ever saw Ricky
Yep.
Gervais's was it
Oh, I love
Afterlife?
that.
I mean,
I love Afterlife.
amazing. I've written articles about Afterlife. It was just amazing. The thing about him though, and the humor that he has is he says things that I could never say in real life. Of course, he's a
Yeah.
fictional character in that movie, in that show, but I want to so bad. I want to
Yep.
say what he said so bad, and I can't. I won't. And I
Yep.
didn't. But what a release! So I'm laughing hysterically at this
Yep.
really dark humor. But it was almost like you said earlier. It lifts this weight off of you. It's like you
It
feel
does.
lighter after you're done
It does.
laughing.
Yeah, and some people will find, something like that funny that kind of brings out their loss, and like you said, those are things that he said that you couldn't say yourself but
Mm-hmm.
wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And other people may find humor in something that's more of an escape, something that
Mm-hmm.
has nothing to do with grief. So another piece of advice I would have about finding your funny after loss is, you know, actually take a few minutes or an hour out of a day when you're not doing anything, and put on a couple YouTube videos of
Mm-hmm.
comedians, of stand-up comedians, and figure out what you find funny. I think it's important to say, well, what do I find funny?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it might be different than what you found funny before the death of your person. It really does change your humor sometimes. And so figure out what you think is funny and then watch more of that, do more of that, read more of that, and then also keep funny people in your life. Those
Yes.
people that make you laugh, those people that give a little light and want to take you to lunch or something, take them up on it and spend more time with people that want to include that piece of laughter and hope in your life, because
I
it's
think
it's
that's
so needed during that
that's
time.
terrific advice. Yeah, find the people that are going to help you laugh. Find the people that are going to
Yeah.
help you find that laughter. And I used to scroll Pinterest and Instagram. Obviously, when you're grieving too, you just find that escape. So in my first
Yep.
few years, I did a lot of Pinterest scrolling, but I used to love watching or finding memes, whatever you want to call it, on misheard lyrics. So the way people sing
Yes.
songs that are not the way they say, right? I would belly laugh. My kids would just look at me like, what is so funny? They could not understand. Like, I'm talking, like, just, I don't even know how to explain how funny it was or how much I was laughing. Contorted face and the whole, like, tears streaming down my face, the whole thing. And they couldn't understand it. And other people might not think that's funny, but it was hilarious to me. So I would just look up every single instance of misheard lyrics that I could find because I thought it was so funny. There's a company that prints them on glasses, on like drinking glasses. I'm like, I need to get some of those glasses because
You
I just laugh
do.
every
It
time I
sounds
see it. It's just
you
funny. So,
definitely
but
need
but
those.
that's not funny to everybody. So to your point, find
Right.
your own. Find
Yeah,
your own
find your
way.
funny. Find what you think is funny. And the only way to do that is to just kind of sit down and figure it out. Watch a bunch of comedians, watch a bunch of comedy shows, and if you can't take, a lot of people can't focus in the beginning and can't read a lot or can't,
Sure.
it's hard. So if that's the case for you and you're in a fog, then just do it a little at a time. Just start with a couple YouTube videos, things that are short, have a short attention span, and then go from there, see how it feels.
So as a comedian, do you have, I'm sure you have your favorite comedians.
I
Who do you
do.
think
Ricky
is,
Gervais is one of them.
I know, love him, love him, love him. Yeah, I could watch him
Yeah,
all
I love
day.
Ricky Gervais. I love Carol Burnett. I
Mm-hmm.
love Gilda Radner. I love Saturday Night Live. It was always kind of my dream to be on Saturday Night Live, or just be a writer on Saturday Night
Oh
Live.
my gosh, yeah.
Um, I love Tina Fey. There's so many that I love. It's hard to name them all, but those are a few favorites.
And anyone that you can think of, I'm putting on the spot here, but with the dark humor that's like similar to yours. Anybody that you can go to that's like, oh yeah, besides Ricky Gervais, you've already mentioned him, but they can say things that you're like, I don't know if I'd say that out loud, but it's hilarious. Just putting on the spot here, but didn't know if there was anybody you could think of.
I used to really love George Carlin. He's
Yes.
he's not a, he's deceased now, but
Yes.
his stuff is very, very honest, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very deep sometimes. And he does talk a lot about death, and he talks about religion, and he talks about so many different topics, but always with so much honesty. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's somebody that I really admire and love a lot, and makes me laugh.
So, what about some resources that you can think of? We're trying to give people some actionable things that they can do or places that they can go, things they can see to help them. And especially, like I said earlier, for the people who maybe don't really know how to find that humor yet, what are
Yeah.
some resources that they could use or places that they could start?
Yeah. So I think almost anywhere that a person might live, they would be able to find a local to their area improvisation troupe. And then improvisation troupes are great. They're so much fun, and you can go and see an improv troupe, go to a show, and they're not very expensive. They're mostly local comedy troupes. They're called improv troupes for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. If you just Google improv troupes, it'll come up in your area. And you can go to like a local theater and watch an improv show. And it's really fun. It's relaxing. It's different,
Mm-hmm.
and will take you out of your own pain for a little while, for an hour or two, and you'll just laugh. Um, some people may have seen improvisation on, there was a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's
Mm-hmm.
still on the air in some places.
Yeah.
Very funny show.
Very
That's
funny.
basically what improv comedy is. And they have troops all over the place, all over the country and in other countries too, I believe, where they have professional comedians as part of this troupe that does those improv games and for an audience. And it's a great resource for people that are just looking to laugh, but maybe don't necessarily want to go see a stand-up comic,
Mm-hmm.
because that stand-up comic, they might be afraid that stand-up comic will attack them,
Right.
and use them for material, which sometimes
Right.
happens when you sit in the front row. So stay out of the front row.
We like to go to a comedy place around here about my area, and my husband always wants to drag us up to the front. I'm like, I do not want to sit in the front row. I do
No,
not want to
not a
be
good
there.
idea.
I don't like
Not a
it. I
good
don't want to be
idea.
part of the show. No.
Yes, there's also a couple of books that I have found, that I personally found very funny, and they are about grief, but they're written with humor. And one of them is called "The Funny Thing About Grief,"
Okay.
and it's by Katie Stifter.
Okay.
Hard name to say, but and the other one is called "Confessions of a Mediocre Widow."
Yeah, I read that
And
one
that
too.
one's really funny as well, and that's by Catherine Tidd. So those are
Yes.
two books that I really like a lot. And then lastly, there's a podcast that I really enjoy. It's not always funny, but there's humor in it sometimes, and it's by Anderson Cooper,
Okay.
from CNN, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called All There Is, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
grief podcast, and it's wonderful. He has such honest conversations with all different people, some celebrities, some writers, about grief and about loss, and they're so honest, and people come on and tell their stories about grief and who they've lost and how they're coping, and it's just one of the so many good conversations in that podcast.
Great to know. Those are some wonderful resources. I'm really happy that you shared
Yeah.
those with us, and we'll make sure on your presentation page to include those links so that people can get back to looking at the resources after they've seen your presentation. So I really appreciate that. I just want to thank you so much for being here today. This has been such a great conversation. We don't have that many people that talk about humor and grief. So I'm very
Yeah.
happy that you're here today to do that. And I think it'll be so beneficial for so many people watching that says, hey, it's okay to laugh. I want to just encourage everyone to laugh and find the absurdity in every challenging thing that you're going through right now. It's really a difficult time. And hopefully this conversation that we've had today will help everybody that's listening and watching do that. Find that funny, find the laughter and the humor. So be sure to check out Kelly's book and her viral TED Talk. And everybody who's here today, keep on keeping on. Thank you.